Mexican cartel militants have fired across the border at a U.S. border patrol as the United States deploys troops there. On Monday, January 27th, a border patrol group was fired upon by drug cartel militants from the disputed Fronten Island on the Rio Grande River, which forms the border between Mexico and the United States. The cartel reportedly tried to smuggle migrants across the southern border with Mexico, but the Mexican military blocked them on the opposite bank. Later, a spokesman for the Texas Department of Public Safety released footage from a reconnaissance drone sent to support the operation. The video shows a group of armed men on the island's coast shooting at border guards. Meanwhile, the United States has been conducting an operation to deploy a contingent of the U.S. Marine Corps to the border with Mexico for several days to support the Border Patrol in the fight against illegal migration. The U.S. military used V-22 Osprey convertible aircraft to deploy 500 Marines. Along with them, the material and technical base of the units was transferred to the border area. Recently, a contingent of thousands of U.S. troops was ordered to redeploy and deploy along the border with Mexico to strengthen the protection of the southern border. Before that, on the day of his inauguration, U.S. President Donald Trump ordered the military presence on America's southern border to be increased. Approximately 2,200 troops are already deployed there as part of Joint Task Force North, a border mission of the U.S. Northern Command, headquartered in El Paso, Texas. They help to implement the tasks of the U.S. Customs and Border Protection. In addition, the National Guard contingent Operation Lone Star is reported to be deployed in the border area. According to the Texas Military Department, about 4,500 National Guardsmen are currently involved in this mission. Back to Ukraine. Russian soldier films cluster munitions exploding in close proximity to his position. Satellite imagery reveals strong indications that Russia has begun withdrawing forces from its Tartus naval base in Syria, a move that has been widely anticipated. The potential loss of this key facility, where Russian vehicles and equipment had been stockpiling for weeks, would mark a significant setback for the Kremlin. This comes as Russia has already been scaling down its presence at Khmeimim Air Base in Syria, raising further questions about the future of its military footprint in the country. These developments follow last year's sudden downfall of Bashar al-Assad, whose regime had relied heavily on Russian support. Images taken on January 25th by Maxar show Russian cargo ships Sparta and Sparta II docked at Tartus, with visible cargo transfer operations underway. The vessels had been waiting offshore for several days before being granted access to the port. Additionally, a substantial number of Russian military vehicles and other equipment that had been stationed on a pier for weeks have now disappeared. This activity coincides with unconfirmed reports from Syrian media that Damascus has revoked Russia's 49-year lease agreement for the Tartus base. The original deal, secured in 2017, had effectively handed control of both Tartus and Khmeimim Air Base to Moscow. Russia had intervened militarily in Syria 2 years earlier, helping Assad stave off advancing rebel forces. Until the very end of his regime, Russian troops had been engaged in combat against opposition groups, including Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, the coalition that ultimately toppled Assad. Beyond Syria, both Tartus and Khmeimim have served as critical strategic assets for Russia. The Tartus naval base provided the Russian Navy with a rare warm water port, while Khmeimim played a crucial role in power projection across the Mediterranean and beyond. The airbase had even been expanded in recent years to accommodate larger aircraft, including bombers, reinforcing Russia's ability to operate in Africa, particularly in Libya. The future of Russia's military presence in Syria remains uncertain. While Moscow has signaled its intent to maintain some level of access to these facilities, it is reportedly engaged in negotiations with the new Syrian government to secure continued use of the bases. How those talks unfold will determine the next chapter of Russia's involvement in the region. Kutsenko Dmitry Mikhailovich, commander of the Airborne Assault Battalion of the 810th Separate Marine Brigade, received a Hero's Star for stopping the Ukrainian Armed Forces offensive in the Kursk region, and now the reality. The 810th Marine Brigade has been breaking records for the number of prisoners and personnel losses for the 5th month already. The notorious governor of Belgorod region, Gladkov, has seriously suggested stripping Russian children who wrongly assess the actions of the authorities regarding the special military operation of their right to higher and secondary education. He pointed to children who write offensive words on churches as an example. He believes the state should take a harsh stance against such children. He'd probably throw them off a cliff.
We must protect the children. We must protect the constitutional order. We must protect our region and country. Therefore, if a child commits, for example, unlawful actions against military personnel, regarding the assessment of the state's actions in the context of the special military operation, my proposal is to consider the issue of preventing in the future, for example, receiving education in state technical schools and universities. We are for every child, but we are for increasing responsibility in everyone. There are no jokes here.
Counterintelligence of the Security Service of Ukraine detained agents of the Russian Special Services who were preparing a missile strike on the airfields of Ukrainian F-16 fighter jets. The military counterintelligence neutralized an agent group of the Russian Federal Security Service, which was hunting for fighter jets and combat helicopters of the armed forces of Ukraine. As a result of the special operation, 2 people who were photographing the takeoff of a Ukrainian F-16 were caught in the act near one of Ukraine's military airfields. The agents were 2 residents of Kremenchuk, aged 21 and 22, recruited by a hostile intelligence service. The traitors' task was to collect the exact coordinates of the main and reserve airfields and aviation infrastructure. Later, this data was to be used to launch missile strikes. In addition to searching for geolocations, they installed video surveillance cameras to monitor Ukrainian aviation activity. The FSB supervisor also demanded reports in text format and photos of the types of equipment found at each site. To fulfill this instruction, the young men intended to travel by bus to 5 regions of Ukraine. They planned to rent housing near each of the potential sites to spy and film the target for several days. SSU officers exposed both agents at the initial stage of hostile reconnaissance, documented their fruitless visits to several regions, and detained them while they were taking pictures of F-16 fighter jets.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Also, if you want to support Warthog Defense, please become our member and get early access to new videos, exclusive members-only videos, and become administrator in comment section. The membership link is in the description.
Rescues every day. We had a guy last week at 6 rescues in 6 days. You know, he's doing the job every day.